Welcome to Season 5, Episode 1 of the Workers' Comp Unwrapped, with your host Aneeq and Angela as our guest. Today, we'll talk about the April 2026 UR Overhaul, how the new rules change every RFA you file in California.
Yeah, and I have to say, this is going to feel like a massive shock to the system for a lot of people.
Oh, absolutely.
Because, I mean, this is the most substantial utilization review overhaul we have seen in, I don't know, years.
Right.
So if you're operating a clinic or managing claims or even just handling the billing side, the ground beneath you is basically shifting entirely.
Yeah, I keep looking at this April 1st, 2026 implementation date. And, well, the way I'm thinking about it is it's kind of like one of those deceptive software updates on your phone.
Oh, yeah.
You know, the ones where you get the little pop-up and it just says minor bug fixes.
Right.
And you hit update without even thinking about it. Your phone restarts, and suddenly you're just staring at a completely unrecognizable operating system.
Yeah, everything's moved.
Exactly. The apps are in totally different places.
Yeah.
Your settings are wiped out, and you literally don't know how to send a text message anymore.
Yep.
And I feel like a lot of clinics are going to look at these new Divisions of Workers' Compensation rules, the DWC rules, and they're going to assume it's just a minor patch.
Yeah.
Like, oh, just a couple of updated PDF forms, you know?
Well, it's actually worse than a software update. I mean, because with a software update, if your phone crashes, you can usually figure out a way to like revert back to the old version.
Right, like a factory reset or something.
Exactly. But here, the DWC has completely burned the bridge back to 2025.
Oh, wow.
There is no rollback. So if you operate under your old assumptions on April 2nd, your practice is going to hit just a massive wall of invalid paperwork and totally denied reimbursements.
Man.
Because it touches everything. It's the exemptions, the accreditation disclosures, these brutally strict deadlines, and honestly, the actual punitive measures for getting any of it wrong.
Which I guess brings up the bigger question of like why this is happening right now.
Yeah.
Because whenever a regulatory body like the DWC drops a structural shift that's this heavy, it usually means the underlying system is failing, right?
Yeah, I mean, it's broken.
Right. And looking at the history here, it seems like Senate Bill 1160 and Assembly Bill 1124 were basically born out of just absolute gridlock.
Yeah, they were.
Like the system was so bogged down with these utilization review delays that, you know, injured workers were just waiting months for basic care.
Right.
And the legislature finally just lost patience with the whole thing.
That is exactly the macro level driver here. I mean, the legislature passed those bills with the very explicit goal of forcing care to injured workers faster. Right. And they wanted to do that primarily by trying to eliminate the administrative bottlenecks in the UR process.
Sure. Which makes sense on paper.
Right. It makes perfect sense. But passing a law and making it actually function in reality are two very different things.
Oh, yeah.
Because these laws, they've been on the books, but what we are looking at with this April 2026 overhaul is the DWC finally deploying the hard operational code.
Ah, I see.
They're translating legislative intent into these incredibly strict regulations that dictate exactly how you file when you file and the severe financial consequences if you fail to do it right.
Okay, so this sounds incredibly punitive right out of the gate.
It is.
But when you read the sort of headline summaries of this overhaul, they actually lead with something that sounds like a massive gift to providers.
Right, the exemption.
Yeah, Labor Code 4610B introduces this 30-day exemption.
Yeah.
And on paper, I mean, this says a treating physician can render medically necessary treatment during the first 30 days after the date of injury without getting prior authorization, meaning no prospective UR, no request for authorization, no RFA is needed for that initial window.
Right.
And it sounds amazing. It sounds like a free pass to just bypass the bureaucracy and do what doctors do best, you know, just treat the patient.
Right. It sounds like a dream.
But knowing how this system operates, I'm looking at this quote-unquote free pass, and I'm immediately looking for the trapdoor.
Oh, there is a trapdoor, and it is a massive.
I knew it.
Yeah, and it's going to swallow a lot of really well-intentioned practices whole.
Wow. Okay, break that down for us.
Well, this exemption is not just some blanket policy for every licensed treating physician in the state of California.
Okay.
It fundamentally hinges on the medical provider network, or the MPN.
The MPN, right?
Right. So the 30-day exemption only applies if the physician is a confirmed active member of the specific employer's or insurer's MPN.
Wait, okay, so let me just play this out. If I'm a doctor and I read the headline and a worker comes in on day 2 post-injury, right? Mm-hmm. And I spend a whole month providing intensive physical therapy. I'm doing diagnostic work, I'm dispensing medication, and I'm doing all this, assuming I don't need to file an RFA.
Right, because of the 30-day rule.
Exactly.
Yeah.
But if it turns out I'm not in that specific hyper-localized MPN for that specific employer,
Oh boy.
I didn't just bend a rule. Did I just provide an entire month of unauthorized, uncompensated healthcare?
You absolutely did, yes.
Oh my God.
You are entirely exposed to a total loss of reimbursement for that entire 30-day window.
That is terrifying.
It is because you provided unauthorized treatment, and the claims administrator is under absolutely no obligation to pay you for it.
Wow.
And the reason this is so particularly dangerous is that verifying your MPN status is rarely a straightforward process.
Right, because finding out if you are in a specific MPN isn't like, just searching for a local coffee shop on a map app.
Not at all.
You're dealing with hundreds of different networks. You've got these carved out employer plans, outdated online rosters.
Oh, the rosters are awful.
Right, and then you have insurance adjusters who maybe they don't call you back for 3 days. It's just a complete labyrinth.
It is deeply convoluted because a provider might think, hey, I'm in this major insurer's general MPN, so I'm good.
Right.
But the specific employer that the injured worker works for, they might have opted into a custom carved out MPN that actually excludes that same provider.
Oh, wow. So even if you're with the parent insurer, you might not be in the employer's specific carve-out.
Exactly. And the online portals, like you said, they are notoriously lagging in updates.
Yeah.
So if you are a clinic manager or you're an intake coordinator and you're listening to this deep dive right now, your internal operating procedure has to change today.
Definitely.
The golden rule here is that you must confirm MPN status in writing every single time before you even consider leveraging that 30-day exemption.
Right. No exceptions.
A verbal confirmation over the phone from an adjuster is it's not enough to risk a whole month of revenue.
Yeah. No, that makes total sense.
Yeah.
And assuming you actually manage to navigate that MPN labyrinth,
Right.
and you want to communicate with the UR organization, you're relying on your back office systems. Which brings up this really terrifying realization I had when I was reading the source material about how clinics and claims administrators are currently generating their denial and modification letters.
Ah, yes, the accreditation rules.
Right, because we're looking at a massive shift in URAC accreditation rules here.
We are specifically the strict disclosure requirement regarding that URAC accreditation.
Okay.
Because just to give some context, any utilization review organization that modifies or denies treatment, they've been required to hold URAC workers' compensation utilization management accreditation since 2018.
So the requirement to be accredited isn't new.
No, the underlying requirement isn't new. What changes in 2026 is the absolute transparency of who specifically holds the liability.
I see. Because in the past, these UR organizations, they basically operated behind these massive webs of leased networks and parent companies and shell entities.
Exactly. It was a maze.
Right. You'd get a denial letter, and it was nearly impossible to figure out which specific corporate entity actually made the adverse medical decision.
Yep.
So to force some accountability, the new rule dictates that any adverse decision, whether it's a modification or a denial, it must explicitly name the specific liable URAC accredited entity right there on the document.
Right, because the DWC wants to know exactly whose neck to wring if a UR decision is improper or out of compliance.
Yeah, they're tired of chasing ghosts.
Exactly. They are stripping away that corporate veil. The liable entity has to be crystal clear on the written notice.
Which means the biggest threat to compliance right now is what I like to call the lazy print button.
The lazy print, but I love that. Yes.
Right, because I'm just picturing April 2nd, 2026. You've got this busy claims administrator. They have a massive stack of denials they have to process by 5 p.m.
Oh, yeah. Friday afternoon.
Exactly. They open their trusty word processing template from 2025. They hit print. They slap a stamp on it and they mail it out. And it has the patient's name, it has all the medical details, the doctor's name. I mean, everything is factually correct about the medicine.
Right. The clinical stuff is perfect.
But because they use the old template, it doesn't have that one specific sentence naming the liable URAC entity.
Oh.
So that letter isn't just, missing a minor detail. It's legally invalid, isn't it?
It is instantly invalid. Full stop. It does not matter if the company actually holds the absolute platinum standard of URAC accreditation in their corporate office.
Right. They could be the best in the business.
Doesn't matter. If the specific liable entity is not explicitly named on that piece of paper, the communication is non-compliant.
That is wild.
Yeah. And this isn't a gentle suggestion from the state to like maybe update your letterhead next time you order stationery.
Right.
This forces a mandatory immediate rebuild of all administrative templates for adverse decisions across the entire California system.
And speaking of invalid paperwork, the margin for error on when that paperwork is filed, it just completely evaporated.
Oh, the deadlines.
Yeah. Let's talk about time, because my understanding of the new independent medical review, the IMR, is that the state just took an absolute sledgehammer to the stopwatch.
They did. They split the deadlines entirely, and it's going to require just intense operational precision from everyone.
Okay.
So historically, if an injured worker wanted to dispute an adverse UR decision, by filing an IMR application, they had a standard 30 days.
Right.
Pretty straightforward.
Very standard. But under the new rules, if the dispute is strictly regarding a drug that is on the MTUS formulary drug list, that deadline drops from 30 days down to just 10 days from the date the UR decision is served.
Okay, wait, I have to stop you there. Because for those of us who don't basically live in the regulatory acronym SOUP,
Right.
MTUS formulary drug list, it sounds like standard bureaucratic jargon.
It does.
But I know it's doing a lot of heavy lifting in this particular rule.
It is.
So what actually is the MTUS, and what makes a drug on that list so special that it justifies compressing a legal timeline by like 66%?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So MTUS stands for the Medical Treatment Utilization Schedule.
Okay.
And it is essentially California's massive evidence-based medical rulebook.
Got it.
And the MTUS formulary specifically is a highly specific pre-vetted list of medications that the state has basically already determined are the standard of care for certain injuries.
I see. So it's already approved science. Exactly. Because these drugs have already been rigorously debated and analyzed and approved by the state's medical evidence panels, the DWC's logic is that disputes over them really shouldn't take a full month to figure out.
Oh, okay.
The medical consensus already exists.
Right.
Therefore, if there's a dispute over an MTUS drug, the system basically demands immediate resolution,
Right.
And hence the brutal 10-day compression.
Okay, so that makes logical sense from the systems engineering standpoint.
Right, structurally it makes sense.
But in the actual reality of medical bureaucracy, 10 days is basically the blink of an eye.
It really is.
Because you figure, okay, the UR decision is served. Maybe it takes a day or two in the mail to arrive.
Yeah, or it hits an inbox on a Friday afternoon, right?
Exactly, Friday afternoon. You factor in a weekend, maybe a bank holiday, and suddenly the injured worker and their attorney have roughly, 48 to 72 working hours to gather all their medical evidence, fill out the dispute forms, and formally file the IMR.
It's incredibly tight.
This is literally like diffusing a bomb in a Hollywood movie. Like if you're dealing with a standard treatment dispute, say, physical therapy or some surgery,
Yeah.
you cut the blue wire and you have a very comfortable 30-second countdown.
Right.
But if it's an MTUS formulary drug, you cut the red wire and the timer instantly drops to 10 seconds.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to be colorblind here.
No, you really can't. And the really scary part is that the person cutting that wire, the person basically setting that bomb's timer, is usually an overwhelmed claims administrator or a UR intake coordinator.
Oh, man.
Because the burden isn't just on the injured worker to magically know the difference between the wires.
Right? They wouldn't know.
The claims administrators and the UR organizations must mark the correct deadline, either 10 days or 30 days, right on the IMR application paperwork that they send out.
Oh, wow. So wait, if a claims administrator is just moving too fast and they miscategorize the dispute, let's say they accidentally mark a formulary drug dispute with the standard 30-day checkbox instead of the 10-day one.
Yep.
They basically just handed a mislabeled bomb to the injured worker.
Precisely. They have created a massive downstream timing crisis for everyone involved.
All of that is a nightmare.
It is, because if they give the worker 30 days on paper, but the actual law requires 10 towns in, the IMR organization might literally reject the dispute as untimely if it arrives on day 15.
Even though the worker was just following the instructions on the paper.
Even though they followed the instructions they were given exactly, it completely derails the entire appeals process. It creates this totally unnecessary litigation, and obviously it delays the medication even further.
Right.
So precision on these intake forms, it isn't just a best practice goal anymore, It is a mandatory requirement for the system to even function.
So if you make one mistake on the categorization or one mistake on a template or you just assume you're in an MPN when you aren't, everything just blows up.
Everything.
And from what I read in the source material, if you blow it and you get a denial, you can't just brush the dust off. tweak a few words on the RFA and try again next week.
No.
Because the DWC has basically built an impenetrable brick wall now.
They really have. It's a 12-month brick wall.
12 months.
And honestly, this is one of the most severe friction mechanisms in the new rules.
Okay.
Because a UR denial or modification now remains in full effect for a full 12 months for the exact same treatment requested by the exact same physician or practice group for the exact same patient.
Okay, so you're locked out.
You are locked out. In the past, some providers treated RFAs kind of like throwing spaghetti at a wall.
Right, just seeing what sticks.
Exactly. You get a denial, you wait a few weeks, you submit the exact same request, hoping, maybe you get a different UR reviewer on shift who might just approve it.
Right.
But that strategy is completely dead.
But wait, patients aren't static, right?
Right.
A lot can happen in a year.
Yeah.
A worker's back injury could seriously deteriorate. They could develop a secondary issue, or maybe the initial conservative treatments just completely fail.
Yeah, things change.
There has to be an avenue for a doctor to request that treatment again before 2027.
There is an exception, yes, but it requires really rigorous clinical discipline.
Right.
The 12-month hold only lifts if there is a specifically documented material change in clinical facts.
Okay, let's test the boundaries of a material change here.
Sure.
Because can a busy doctor who has exactly, 6 minutes per patient, can they just scribble on the chart, patient's back, feels worse today, pain is a 9 out of 10, and then use that subjective note to just bypass the 12-month block?
Absolutely not.
I figured.
Yeah, and that is exactly the kind of behavior the DWC is trying to eradicate here.
Right.
A subjective scribble about the patient feeling worse, or a really generic note that conservative care isn't working, that will not break that 12-month wall.
Okay.
The clinical change must be objective, it must be significant, and it must be thoroughly documented with real evidence.
Okay, so we were talking about like a new MRI showing that a minor disc bulge has actually progressed to a full herniation that's compressing a nerve.
Yes, exactly.
Or like the patient developed a totally new documented comorbidity like severe neuropathy that fundamentally alters the treatment paradigm.
Those types of scenarios. The evidence must essentially compel a new medical review.
Got it.
If a doctor tries to submit a new RFA for the same treatment without attaching that level of objective documented proof of a material change, the UR organization is just going to throw that request straight into the trash for a full year.
Man, so it really forces physicians to slow down and actually build a watertight clinical case before they ask for something twice.
Yes, it forces them to be very deliberate.
It's a massive behavioral shift and a massive penalty for doctors who don't adapt to it.
It is.
But let's flip the perspective for a second.
Okay.
Because we have this harsh 12-month timeout for providers who get denied. What about the utilization review organizations themselves?
The UR companies.
Yeah, because historically they've wielded a lot of the power, and their punishment system for breaking the rules always seemed pretty loose to me.
Yeah, it's essentially a report card system, honestly.
Right.
Historically, UR organizations were evaluated under this routine performance rating system, and it was quite forgiving.
Okay.
If a UR company made a few administrative errors, or maybe they missed a timeline by a day, it might just lower their overall performance score a few percentage points.
Like a B- instead of an A.
Exactly. It was kind of viewed as just a standard cost of doing business.
Right.
But that old system is completely dismantled under the 2026 overhaul.
Oh, wow. So if the report card is dead, I have to imagine the DWC replaced it with the only thing that actually forces corporate compliance right.
Hitting them in the wallet.
Exactly, hitting them directly in their wallets and threatening their literal ability to operate.
You hit the nail on the head. The enforcement side now has real existential teeth.
Wow.
Administrative errors that used to be considered minor and totally waivable now carry direct financial penalties.
Yeah.
Now, the state isn't being completely unreasonable about this. The DWC does provide a specific correction window.
Okay, so you get a chance to fix it.
Right. You get a written notice of the violation and a very strict period of time to fix the issue before the harshest financial discipline actually kicks in.
Okay.
But if a UR organization exhibits repeated or systemic or severe non-compliance, it escalates incredibly rapidly to probation suspension or the total revocation of their UR plan.
Oh, wow. Total revocation. And I have to say, I really love the absolute symmetry of the DWC's logic here because the irony is incredible.
Right.
If a provider gets a treatment denied, they are locked out in a 12-month timeout. If a UR plan gets completely revoked by the state for breaking these new operational rules, let me guess how long they have to wait before they can reapply to do business in California.
Take a wild guess. It is exactly 12 months.
12 months.
Yes, a revoked UR plan cannot reapply for a full year in almost all cases.
That is amazing.
And for a business that relies entirely on processing California workers' comp claims, I mean, a 12-month exile is essentially a corporate death sentence.
Oh, absolutely. Go under.
Exactly. And it's why there is such a heavy emphasis right now on verifying that a UR plan's filing status is completely current under the new mandatory UR01 form.
Right. That UR01 form is everything.
It is, because one paperwork lapse regarding your UR01 status could theoretically trigger that entire cascade of penalties.
Man. Okay, well, we have covered a staggering amount of regulatory ground here.
We really have.
We are looking at a system that has been entirely re-engineered from the ground up.
Yep.
So let's kind of put ourselves in the shoes of a clinic manager or a claims director walking into their office on the morning of April 2nd, 2026.
Okay.
How do they actually survive this? Because just, putting up a laminated poster in the break room that says, hey guys, stay compliant, isn't going to cut it against a 10-day deadline.
No, definitely not. It requires a total restructuring of basically the entire morning workflow.
Okay, so what's the plan?
Well, if I'm running that clinic, the very first thing my intake team does when a new patient walks in is halt absolutely everything until they check and confirm MPN status in writing.
Get it in writing.
Exactly. No one assumes the 30-day exemption applies until the paper trail actually exists.
Right.
Simultaneously, my back office team is doing a complete digital sweep of every single adverse decision letter template in our entire software system.
Oh yeah, hunting down those old templates.
Right, just to guarantee the specific liable URAC accredited entity is explicitly named on every single
What, you are literally burning the 2025 templates entirely?
throwing them in the digital trash.
Yep. And then for the UR team handling disputes, they clearly need a triage protocol.
Oh, a highly aggressive triage protocol.
Yeah.
Because the moment a dispute crosses a desk, they have to basically flag whether it involves an MTUS formulary drug.
Right, red wire, blue wire.
Exactly. If it does involve an MTUS drug, that file gets a massive red sticker and is expedited just to ensure that the 10-day IMR clock is very clearly marked on the paperwork sent to the worker.
Wow.
And finally, the medical directors need to be aggressively auditing the physician's charts.
Oh yeah, because of the 12-month wall.
Yes. If a doctor wants to challenge a 12-month denial hold, the medical director needs to ensure that the objective proof of a material clinical change is fully documented before the new RFA is even drafted.
It is a phenomenal, albeit just exhausting operational shift for these clinics.
It's exhausting, yeah.
And the overarching theme of this new operating system seems to be that it ruthlessly rewards precision over speed.
Absolutely.
Right? Like if you move fast to get a patient through the door, you just assume the wrong MPN, or you categorize a drug dispute wrong just to clear out your inbox, your financial and legal exposure is exponentially higher now.
That's massive.
You basically have to be precise.
Yeah, you don't have a choice anymore.
Which really brings up a fascinating contradiction to close out our deep dive today.
Okay, what's that?
Well, we established at the very beginning that the DWC's stated intent with SB 1160 and AB 1124 was to get care to injured workers faster.
Right, that was the whole point of the legislation.
Yeah. Exactly. The goal was to clear the bureaucratic bottlenecks.
But when you look at the reality of these incredibly tight 10-day deadlines, the complex MPN verification traps that can literally cost a clinic all of its reimbursement for a month, and the strict financial penalties for even minor paperwork errors.
Yeah, it is a lot.
You really have to wonder about the psychological impact on the medical community.
For sure.
Because could this hyper-strict, unforgiving regulatory environment actually make top-tier medical providers far more hesitant to take on workers' comp patients in California in the first place?
That is the worry.
Right, like if a doctor has to choose between a standard private insurance patient and a workers' comp patient, where just one administrative slip-up means they literally work for free or get locked out of authorizations for a whole year.
Yeah, they might just say no thanks.
Exactly, they might just opt out entirely.
Way.
So are we successfully curing the delay, or are we accidentally throttling the entire system by just starving it of willing providers?
That is the ultimate question here.
It's like the state basically built a much faster highway, but they made the toll so high and the speed limit so aggressively enforced that we kind of just have to wait and see how many drivers are actually willing to get on the road.
Wow. That's a perfect way to put it.
And obviously the stakes for the actual injured workers in the middle of all this couldn't be higher.
No, they really couldn't. Well, a huge thank you for breaking down the mechanics of this massive overhaul with such clarity
Oh,
today.
you're welcome. It was fun.
And for everyone listening, make sure you audit those letter templates today. Build a really rigorous system to verify that MPN status in writing and deeply, deeply respect that 10-day clock on those formulary drugs. We'll catch you on the next deep dive.